Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm delighted that you could join us. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff is with me, and the Wanderer finally returns. Some people actually squealing at us, sending us emails. Where is Tam Cowan? Is he off? Has he been bulleted? Not a chance. Friendship is all about loyalty as well, Tam, isn't
Absolutely. We don't even need to do that.
Yes,
now.
absolutely.
There we go. And by the way, I love what you've done with the place.
Well, I have to tell you,
incredible.
It's better,
lovely, isn't it?
It's better than you with the technology. My God, see at times I was waiting you just going like that and firing the iPad.
Great. It's good to be back. I've missed them. And I'll tell before I forget, because I was up, mainly Fife, and there was a gentleman one night in Burnt Island that we had come up for the Burnt Island shows. We were waiting to go back up the Bray to our campsite, Petticoat Bay, and we're waiting in a bus, right? And you know, can't take the man out of Motherwell, can't take Motherwell out of the man, right? I hadn't been on one for years. But no, we're waiting in the bus, and then a car stops. This is genuine, I'm glad I remembered this.
Right.
And Tom, it's yourself. Where are you going? I says, we're going up to it. Come on, jump in. I love you in PLZ. I never miss a show. So what camera am I on there, Peter?
Yeah, you're over there.
It's a big hello to Mark McCrossan. His wee Doug, it was in the passenger seat with him, and his father-in-law, John. Thank you very much. They're off of Kirkcaldy, and they gave me and my family a run home that night. Brilliant, all because of this.
And by the way, can I just say to you, Ruffy, Burnt Island, it's magnificent. We used to go there on our holidays, and everybody's looking at places to go. And, you know, it's funny you saying that. Zoe, my daughter, was wondering where they could go when you're on the holidays, you're trying to come up with things. And then eventually I just turned around and I said, get in the car, Burnt Island, the shows are there. Big Leash had been in the Fife Courier, I think, saying, by the way, they're open.
It's brilliant, it's brilliant. And a ne'er-do-well, one of my pals before I went, he says, oh, Burnt Island, he says, Tam, I don't know who burnt it, but they've still no renovated it, right? And it was, honestly, I thought, right, it's not a bad wee line, but completely off the mark. It's stunning. Absolutely brilliant, and we caught the weather as well, as you can see.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we're delighted to have you back. Well, listen.
I had to come back. I didn't want to miss Celtic and Rangers in the Champions League. Who is it they're playing? Who is it they're playing? What?
Now, before I get to that, here's your predictor, because we've all had it. Here's yours. Talk us through.
Yes.
What was your thinking?
Well, I'll talk you through it. It's a lovely three-piece suit from Slater's that I bought specially for the predictions a year ago. But with these ones again, it was almost names out of hat. But you need to any fans out there, any viewers out there, unless they're daft, they know you need to rumble it up a wee bit, you know.
Yes.
So I definitely then the wee bit of rumbling up was clearly putting Motherwell down to 8th, when of course I'm tipping us for the league. But no, the wee rumble up was putting Aberdeen into 2nd, and I did that at the start of the season when a lot of folk were thinking, oh, Rangers already are looking good, Celtic appear to be in disarray, Aberdeen get off to a good start, of course, but you know, it shows you how it all changes, you know, but that's just a bit of fun. But
at least
too many folk take it seriously.
Well,
I think we're in a lofty position. I say, I'm trembling at the prospect of this season, but
I was going to ask you, Tam, because in my predictor, I had Motherwell 11th. I had them in the playoff before it even started. I'd, you know, friendlies, the early sections, and I thought to myself, I'm going for 11th. I mean, it's guesswork because, you know, players can change, managers can change.
They can, Peter, but you know that I'm worried about, and I hope Graham Alexander takes heed, because you know, there was a line that Graham came out with, I'm paraphrasing, when we lost to Dundee, saying about as if these games are about getting players up to speed. No, they're not at Motherwell. Motherwell, out of the competitions we'll enter this year, the Premiership, the Scottish Cup, the League Cup, we can only, you know, realistically win 2 of those, the League Cup or the Scottish Cup. That was a big event for Motherwell, with 1,000 fans up there. Fans who hadn't been able to go to football for a year and a half, you know. And so I found that a bit disappointing. A couple of clubs get their backsides felt, it would appear, by maybe no treating the League Cup with the prestige maybe that it deserves, because Aberdeen, you know, dropped a few players. You know, after being a goal up with Wraith Rovers, they get beat 2-1. And the bit that I was dying to ask Ruffy for, because I'm talking like a budgie here, because I've not done this show for a while now. I've been dying to ask Ruffy this. That wonderful wee scenario, great wee cameo moment in Scottish football, where Callum Davidson the St Johnstone manager, against Arbroath. They won their tie in penalties, okay? But that thing about substituting the goalie just for the penalties, I think the young guy, Elliot Parish, is it, perhaps?
Yeah.
And I don't know how he was feeling about it, but he took him off, put Big Xander Clark in goals, right? A real imposing big fella, a great big unit, as they say. And of course, man, it was synonymous with him winning the double last year. A man who a lot of folk think scored at Ibrox. He didn't actually score, it was Chris Kane, but he seems to be almost get the credit for it. And it seemed to work. Arbroath is Dick Campbell. He was furious. They didn't actually get one on target. So I know Chelsea did it as well recently, but in Scottish football, have you seen that before?
I've not seen it in Scottish football before. I think it's a smart move if you change the goalkeeper into the first goalkeeper, and then all of a sudden the striker's going, oh, that's the first goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper who's going to try and save the penalties. So maybe a bit of psychology.
What would Elliot Parish, when he gets subbed for the penalties, having played the game, what would he have said to the manager, and would you think the manager would have said?
You would have liked to have said they've discussed it before it.
Right.
You would have liked to have thought that. But I'm sure if he hadn't discussed it before it, he would have had to have said something to him afterwards.
Yeah, well, listen, it's the old Star Trek, isn't it? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It's as simple as that.
You said that in Star Trek.
That was Spock.
Oh, was it?
I love the Trekkie. But that's it. You know, the needs of St Johnstone, the club, are better than the needs of...
If you're a Trekkie, there's a big... Because, you know, I never miss anything in the papers, and I'm back at work now and that, and go to write columns and do the radio and do this. But there's an exhibition coming up next week, and there's Star Trek memorabilia up for auction. Imagine what these will go for. Spock's original sticky-on ears.
Where is it?
Leonard Nimoy, I think it's Los Angeles, where we're broadcasting from now. Of course, in this new excellent media part. But so have a go at that if you're a Trekkie.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, Ruffy, I don't know about you, but if there's... I mean, apart from being a complete geek when it comes to football stuff and memorabilia, I do like car shows. I was actually going to nip through last weekend to the Kirkliston. They had a classic car show. I don't know, are you into cars, Tam? I love cars.
Not really.
I love old classic cars, so I thought it would be great to nip through there, but I had no mates. Nobody wanted to go with me.
I went to the special day, and I don't know if you remember it, in the Kelvin Hove Art Gallery. It was a Dalek, the Dalek theme.
Doctor Who?
Or through all the Daleks and everything. That was fantastic.
Yeah, they do great features in there in the Kelvin Grove. I went to the AC/DC tribute in the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery. It was magnificent. Thoroughly enjoyed it. James Dock says, hi, hope all is well. Been a long time, and Lord Lucan has returned. Hello, Tam Cowan. So it's good to have you back. Lots of people like that. Lots of people very happy to see you back, Tam, which is good. You've given us your predictions. Lots of people will change their minds. You can give us who you think is going to win the league, and you're 1 to 12 as well. You can download the PLZ Soccer app, and you'll get all the latest breaking news. And of course, the one thing that we do mention, when you actually hit the app, there's a brilliant wee section. It's called Submissions, and it's got a section there where you can basically record yourself and then submit it, and if we use it on the programme, then we'll send you something special. Stuart McKinnon did it a couple of weeks ago. We're going to send him something out. Stuart Bruce has won himself a Sampdoria replica top, and I think the guy's name was Ricky Mullen last week, won the Motherwell top.
Good Motherwell fan, Ricky.
Yep. Do you know?
Yep, Ricky's a legend.
Well, he won the Motherwell top, so there's lots of people going to win Premiership tops this week, and over the next few months we're giving away some great prizes, so stay tuned for that. Okay, Tam's back with us, which is brilliant, and all roads lead to Europe. AZ Alkmaar is next up for Celtic tomorrow night. I'm going to be going along to that, Ruffy. Really looking forward to this, because I think it's a step up again.
Yeah, this team were a good European side maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I know they were second in the league last year, so they must have some kind of form. But I was reading the news this morning for our famous director of football, who was at Scotland for a wee while, and they came in. Remember, he said it's a 10-year package to get us all our young players through into the national team, and we only waited 3 years and we got rid of him. The Dutch boy.
Well, that was
Mark Votter.
He's there.
Yes.
He knows about their academy, the Alkmaar academy, and he's saying they lost 4 of his up and coming young players. So maybe they're not as strong as what they used to be, but I prefer having the away game second rather than first.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing I noticed from all the stories and the pictures of the Alkmaar squad coming in was a guy that played for Rangers with distinction. He's now a scout with him. He was part of the party, and it was Arthur Newman. Arthur is one of the nicest, funniest guys. Great lad. It hasn't aged a bit, Tam. There is something seriously that he's drinking that is reducing any signs of ageing whatsoever.
Absolutely, and I feel bad now about the fact I nearly killed him once. It was a night he'd appeared with us at the BBC, and it was actually tying in with our night out, kind of end of season night out. And it was a wee basement bar diagonally opposite the King's Theatre in Glasgow, if you like, slightly up the hill a wee bit for the Griffin, the famous Griffin bar.
Yeah.
And you go downstairs to this bar. And it was clearly a very well kept bar. It might have been quite a new bar, because the big slidey door that they had was absolutely spotless. The glass door, it was as if they just had the window cleaner in that day. And it was actually closed at the time when Arthur Newman, after a couple of beverages, was trying to leave, and he went straight into it, cracked his head right against it. And for a minute, what a noise it made. Oof. And I thought, boy, we've just, mortally injured one of the Rangers' greats. But happily, he was all right, and he went on to enjoy. He loved his life in Hamilton when he lived there for years. He's very much an adopted Scot, but and a great player.
Oh, great player, he's one of those players, I don't know if you agree with this, Tam, but he was one of those Rangers players, and there are Celtic players on either side that transcends the madness. Arthur was one of those, he would, really wanted to win, but he wasn't a player that was, the subject of real hate or venom or vitriol from Celtic fans, because he was out in the town, and unless he would tell me differently, but every time he was in my company, he was, nobody would give him hassle. He was.
No, I don't believe anybody saying a bad word about him. But it just shows you the quality of players that Rangers had there with Arthur Newman playing in the side.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, listen, Celtic have got a job to do. Ahead of this game, I'm surprised Celtic haven't made a number of signings, because that was certainly something that was on the cards. And Ange Postecoglou was asked about that today, and he says they're close.
I can at least now confidently give a deadline, because the deadline's actually coming up. So I'm pretty confident we'll have players in before the transfer deadline. Not pretty confident, I'm very confident. It's just a matter of timing and getting things done. Like I said, it's not as straightforward as it used to be, and we're very close to a few deals. I think we just need to sort of keep doing what we're doing, stay focused and disciplined, and make sure we get the right players in.
Yeah, well, one of them is Josip Juranovic from Legia Warsaw. I think because they didn't qualify for the Champions League, are starting to offload some of the earners, and they've been crying out for a right back, as if not to compete with Anthony Ralston, certainly in the long term to replace him, which I think is a wee bit unfair to the boy, because despite all the criticism, Tam, he's come in, rallied, scored a couple of goals.
Scored a perler.
Yeah, and he's not been the weak link that everybody has suggested.
He's not, but the bottom line is that Peter, and the Celtic fans again, who bought the season tickets in droves, they know that the defence should have been sorted by now. Even at the point they should have had a better defence for getting into the Champions League, and the whole Eddie Howe carry on was clearly a bit of a fiasco, and I think that's why Big Ange had actually quite a lot of sympathy, and he seems to have. Just going by recent results and certainly performances. Furuhashi, for example, now is it Kyogo or Kyogo? Kyogo, yeah. Right. I mean, we I'm sure we even mentioned it in this show before, Peter, about the lack in Scottish football these days of players who actually would put bums on seats, sort of player that when the ball lands at his feet, you're actually back out your seat because there's a wee buzz and you think he might actually produce something. And he certainly looks like one of the guys. So, it would appear that Celtic, are suddenly looking a lot better than they were 3 weeks ago. But again, with the great Rangers Celtic thing, it's like if Rangers have a wee wobble, suddenly Celtic look good. Yeah. When, Celtic have a wee wobble, suddenly Rangers. So, but this is a good tester for them now to get into the Europa League. And I just wonder though, Peter, if anybody, is it possible now for anybody to get knocked out of Europe though? Yeah. I mean, it's St Johnstone against Galatasaray. Hibs out now. You're out. Did they not get into the Intertoto or something? No,
the Texaco
conference stuff. And it is really, really. There's part of me thinks the game's a bogey, and I said that during the summer. Yeah. As much as I wanted Scotland to get through to the latter stages of the Euros, The very minute you have a tournament where there's 24 teams taking part and 16 go through.
Yeah. No, I'm going to convince you to change your mind, and here's why, Tam.
Why?
Change your mind on the basis that if, like for example, St Johnstone or an Aberdeen or a Hibernian or a Celtic or a Rangers, not to a lesser extent Celtic and Rangers because their ambitions and expectations are slightly higher. If they get into the Conference League, they'll make £3 million.
Right.
So for me, you could win the Cup Winners' Cup, and you could win the Cup in your respective leagues and you get into that tournament, and there was a lot of quality sides in it. So it was hard to get to the latter stages. It was a good tournament, but it had run its course. Now you've got a situation where there's the Conference League, and I was against it, and I'm not a fan of the Europa League, because I want to believe that Celtic and Rangers are Champions League sides, and I think they should get a fair crack of the whip if they win their title. I think the whole thing there's an imbalance. But now, suddenly, like for a Motherwell, if a Motherwell had finished third, suddenly you've got a chance to earn £3 million.
I know.
So for me, anything that gives clubs a scent of Europe, a chance to go on trips, the only chance some clubs get to go on a trip is to follow Scotland. Now for me, an Aberdeen, a Hibs, a St Johnstone, a Motherwell, a Hearts, if you've got a chance to get £3 million now from Europe and the fans get a chance to play these teams, the more the merrier. I like the fact that they've introduced this Conference League now, because they're starting to at least give clubs a chance to change the next couple of years of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, only the exception I made, I've not seen Motherwell in the flesh yet this season because of holidays, and I wasn't going in for the ballot of tickets and all that. I was leaving that to the young team. I've seen a hell of a lot more football than they ever have. You go and enjoy the games now, boys. A week on Saturday, apparently, we'll now be back. I'll be sitting with my pals. The home league game against Dundee, absolutely brilliant. But I did make an exception when I was away on holiday to back up what you're saying. St Johnstone's home tie against Galatasaray, I couldn't miss that, so right into the wee bar, it was on the campsite we were at, and sat there watching it, and brilliant. And as I've said to you guys before as well, in fact, there was many a time when it used to be a Thursday that I would do the programmes where you would drop me off in Glasgow after the shows, because there'd be somebody, there'd be a Scottish interest in the Europa League, and they were the nights when you went out with your pals. They were the nights you went out for a couple of pints, and you enjoyed, as I always say, you really need a Scottish influence in the European competitions. Otherwise, I just switch off.
But we need money in the game, Ruffy. We need money, and I want fans to sample going away on European trips. It's brilliant.
Well, Tam's a perfect example, because he keeps telling us about the time they travelled with Motherwell.
Yeah.
European games, and the joy that all the guys get, and they're all meeting together, and you're going away and you're having a few bevies and you're watching the game, and you've probably been in a country you've never been in your life before.
And you know what, as well, see, to back you up so many times as well, we had quite an incredible run. The kind of, if you like, Stuart McCall, Craig Brown era at the club. We had many a trip, and actually quite a lot of the times we were unlucky in that we always get the away leg second, and ordinarily we lost the first leg. So the football side it had gone, but you're absolutely right, to get away with your pals, away with your fellow fans, and enjoy a wee trip in places like Valencia when we played Levante, or going out to Greece, going to Denmark, going to Norway. It was brilliant.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm going to read out a few messages, if only for... hi to Ian Campbell, who's in Toronto. Thanks, Ian, for sending us a message. Dan, I'm almost certain comes from Edinburgh, because it's such an Edinburgh word, and it reminds me of my long time living in that brilliant city. Dan says... regarding the app, if you download it, he says, record yourself gone Raj after your team gets pumped. Okay, so I don't think Dan's going to do it, Ruffy. Nevertheless, quite a few people talking about the banter, and Billy Kaplinski, I hope I've pronounced your name correctly, Billy. He says, I will send Ruffy a nice golf top from South Carolina if he sends me his size. Great show, boys. Isn't that a nice touch,
Ruffy?
Ruffy?
Wonderful, extra large.
Yeah.
If you I'll
South.
pay for the package.
Oh, what? You're
No,
right.
not really.
He's been wearing his local golf sweatshirt, Tam, which is navy blue with green, white and gold stripes down the side of it. Needless to say, you know, the vast majority of navy blue has not been picked up by our viewers.
Aye,
the
good
green, white
shout.
and gold is, he's getting leathered for it. But a lot of people sending us away, sending us nice messages. So thank you very much to everyone, remembering Arthur Newman as well. So he was a top draw player.
As far as Mark McCrossan, who gave me the lift in Burnt Island, been on yet?
well, let me.
He says he never missed a show.
Well,
I think somebody's telling porkies.
the thing about it is with Martin is he'll probably. The great thing about what a lot of people don't realise, Ruffy, is if you catch it live because you know you're not at work or something like that, you're watching the show, but you can catch it later on. You can go on Sky, hit the app, go down the side, the left-hand side, hit apps. There's YouTube, bang. And we've decided to go exclusively to YouTube, Ruffy. And slowly but surely people are starting to embrace it and find out where we are. All our breaking sports news and little clips are still on Facebook and Twitter. But this is where we're going to be exclusively Monday to Friday, 4 o'clock. And then after that, if you missed it, you can watch at your leisure. As far as Celtic against AZ Alkmaar, Ange Postecoglou says doesn't matter about the away goals now. He thinks it's a benefit to Celtic, in fact.
Yeah, it kind of encourages us to just keep going for it right till the end, because, you know, like you said, conceding a goal is not the end of the world anymore in terms of away goals. The more goals we can score at home, the more challenging it is then for the opposition. And then when you go away from home, we just go for it again, you know, and not worry too much about, you know, what away goals may or may not mean. So it kind of feeds into the kind of football team we want to be anyway. And from our perspective, as I said, I think it's something that we can benefit from.
I don't know about you, Tam, but I like the fact that they've scrapped the away goals rule.
Aye, it's you like any sort of thing that freshens up the game a wee bit, but I just wonder what the players, you know, psyche will be, or even the fans, because if you go back to Motherwell's trips, you know, I remember we were 2-0 down away to Odense,
yeah,
and we're thinking that's it, tease out again. And then Tom Haitley, with almost the last kick of the ball, scored a perler of a free kick against the veteran goalie who'd been with Man United at one point, if you can remember that boy's name. But if you said that, I would know it.
Jans Lehmann.
Was it him?
No, I don't know, just a name I thought of.
The viewers will get it.
But a Manchester United
there was
goalie.
that thing, there was that great thing about, we've got the away goal. Now, we lost the tie, a very, very colourful tie at home when you had the director of football for Odense coming down and get involved in a wee bit of fisticuffs with Craig Brown and all that, with all that stuff going on. But yeah, the away goal, it did give you a wee buzz, but it might take a wee bit of getting used to. What difference do you think it will make to the Celtic game?
Well, Ange is basically saying the difference is basically you have to go out and go and win the game.
Right.
Just go and have a go at it. Don't sit in and then hope to pick them off with an away goal, you know. I mean, in some ways you could probably have looked at Stephen Davis's goal for Rangers, and you're saying, oh, that would have been great. But
is there no a
over
theory
two
that
legs.
the away team, rather than maybe go and try and get their away goal, might just completely park the bus?
Well, it hasn't actually panned out that way. By the way, it was the goalkeeper Lindegaard.
I don't know.
I
said if you said that, I would know it. I was clearly lying. But he was Roy. Is there a Roy?
Oh, yeah, the boy, the Irish boy.
Yeah,
Carroll.
Roy
yeah.
Carroll, there you go, it came to me.
So nobody really Scandinavian that
No.
we were all going that's like him, who turns around and goes, he came in one day in the office before we'd started, he goes, you'll never guess who I saw today. And I'm like, oh, who? He says, guess. And I thought, I mean, what a question. I mean, who?
Yeah.
It was just...
I couldn't remember who it was.
Anyway, apart from anything else, they're beatable, AZ Alkmaar. I think Celtic would, you know, it's huge. I thought Michelin were beatable, Tam, but they couldn't get past them because of various things that the club just let the manager down on. But this time around, I think slowly but surely, you know, I've watched him since he arrived. He's slowly but surely got his message across. They're playing a particular brand of football, which is appealing to the Celtic fans. So the only thing I would say is he needs time to build his team. He's still trying to get players in. He'd like to win this one because I asked him the question, how big is the game for financially, the implications for you and the players you want to bring in? And he said, well, I don't deal with finances. You know, it's not my bag. I just coached them, and I thought, well, you know, managers in the 21st century are aware that if you get into Europe, there's a wee bit of the kitty can come your way.
Although I'd guarantee there's just as many Celtic fans who may be arguing, well, the money's there already. We kept hearing about the money that Celtic have banked in recent years. You know, what exactly's happened to it? You know, so, you know, I don't know how it's going to pan out, but I think they need a good stab at the Europa League, and the same with Rangers, and whether the two of them now maybe just found their level. The Champions League, I mean, you know, if you take it to extremes and you look at that forward line and now PSG, I couldn't believe that was happening, you know, and you think, how's anybody in Scotland meant even dream of competing with clubs like that?
I'm glad you brought it up, because if anything, and I know, you know, in Scotland we are very much the paupers of European football, but I have to say, Tam, the whole UEFA and FIFA thing is just a scam.
Yeah.
I mean, the fair play thing it's just a nonsense.
There's no fair play, and I mean, even I'm sure it was just maybe some rascal that started a rumour, but in social media this morning, talk of Cristiano Ronaldo next year going to PSG.
Yeah, no.
So they'd have Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar.
Yeah, and Di Maria.
Not a bad team.
Yeah, absolutely. But listen, well, when you were away on holiday, we put up the Real Madrid team that David Beckham joined. They never won anything apart from one league, and it had Zidane in it, Ronaldo, Raul, David Beckham, Roberto Carlos. You know, so it doesn't necessarily guarantee it, but gives you a right good show.
I keep wondering even as well, Peter, even at domestic level. I mean, you saw my predictions up there earlier, which were, you know, I didn't spend hours on it, let's say, but I keep wondering if a club is to try and make any inroads with Celtic and Rangers this year or next year or 5 years from now. I wonder if it's going to take a club with a wee bit of luck, and I use that word advisedly, like Dundee United back in 1983, who managed to almost play the same team week in, week out. A good team at that, with some very, very good players. They managed, thankfully for them, to steer clear, it would appear, from injuries and suspensions. I wonder if that's what it's going to take for a club to make inroads, because if it did come down to the players that you can bring in, if it did come down to the wages that you can pay, then, you know, it is going to be Celtic and Rangers for now to Kingdom Come.
Well, it is actually, Tam, unless they go, which I think, you know, at some point it will eventually come. And I'll tell you why I've always thought that the change will happen, Ruffy, between Celtic and Rangers moving on to some kind of league that satisfies their demands, is basically because, you know, Juan Laporta has come out in the last 24 hours. Now, everybody might think this is just a Barcelona problem. Juan Laporta has said that I think they are 1.4 billion in debt.
Try 1.8.
Well, it's rising as we speak. But how do you service that? You know, you've got to try and offload people. Now people know there's a fire sale going on. You're going to have to offload players. Plus, of course, you've got to try and keep the Catalonians happy that you're still competing in the league. So they're goose. Real Madrid are in big debt as well, you know. So
no, I think that league that they try to form was just a sort of a tip in the water.
Yeah.
You know, let's see how everybody else reacts, because all the big teams want it. You know, but I think if they gather pace and more teams want it, and you're right, if Rangers and Celtic got offered a bigger league, they'd jump ship immediately.
I think you're right, Tam. And the one thing that I always look at was an Aberdeen or a Hibs or a Motherwell or a Hearts. You have to be lucky to suddenly build a team that is able to stay together for a year where you can get a run at it. But the one thing I would say which gives people a better chance is you might be able in the next couple of years to see one of them finally break into the group stages, because there's a lot of Scottish players who are getting a chance to play now.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, the Scottish players were having to go elsewhere, down to the Championship, down to League One in England, because they couldn't get a game in the Scottish teams.
Yep.
And plus, of course, some of the chairmen were guilty of buying, you know, what I would call a lot of substandard foreign players. But now, you know, hopefully more and more of them will get the chance.
We're at a stage now where a guy like Jurgen Klopp, clearly no fool, reckons that Billy Gilmore is one of the best Scottish players of the past 50 years.
Yeah.
You know what an accolade that is.
I'm going to read this out, Tam. It's a message for you from Reg Maxwell on Twitter, who says, "Hi guys, Tam, you are brilliant. We never forget what you did for our team, Heart of Midlothian. Love your banter and attended your day at Tiny. It was brilliant and still think you're funny." Well, there's a few inaccuracies in here. I just got to say thank you. You may be Motherwell through and through, but you will always be welcome at Tiny. Isn't that a nice touch?
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
That kid.
Sure, that's no for Levine.
No, that's definitely Reg Dwight.
I feel bad now a couple of seasons ago about phoning up and cancelling all their seats for that stand. Hanky over the phone. Hello.
They still remember you. Listen, the other thing.
Thanks for that, Reg. Was it Reg?
Yeah, Reg.
Thank you very much,
That's
Reg.
a nice touch as well.
It was a pleasure.
Nice. 2 weeks from now, when he's been on the show on a regular basis, people will be back to leathering him, which is exactly what we want. As far as players coming in, players that are going out, there's a wee bit of money in Scottish football. Our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi is just keeping us up to date with what's happening.
With only 2 weeks to go in the transfer window, clubs know time is running out and they must act fast. Let's have a look at what could happen over the next few days. Late last night, Hibernian rejected Aberdeen's bid of £500,000 for winger Martin Boyle. That fee is his release clause, but it's only activated if a club out with Scotland offers it. The Dons will surely go back and try again, whilst winger Matty Kennedy is set to join St Mirren on loan to make room in the squad. Hibs themselves would like to bring in former Motherwell forward James Scott on loan from Hull City as a replacement for the injured Christian Doig, whilst they aim to keep hold of Josh Doig and Kevin Nisbet. Celtic have opened talks with Legia Warsaw over Croatian right-back Josip Juranovic for £2.5 million. The 26-year-old started at the Euros against Scotland and is their number one target after Aurelio Buto chose Everton ahead of the Hoops. Rangers are raced for a £10 million bid for midfielder Glenn Kamara from Spartak Moscow, and it will be interesting to see how it's received, with the Ibrox outfit expected to sell one big money player this summer. Hearts are waiting on Australian midfielder Cameron Devlin, although he will not be available at least until the end of the month. The Jambos also want Liverpool and Wales man Ben Woodburn in on loan, having inquired about the 21-year-old attacking midfielder. Dundee United brought in Mark McNulty to replace Lawrence Shankland. They're also set to add Finnish striker Ilmari Niskasen from German side Ingolstadt. And Ross County are bringing in winger Joseph Hungbo from Watford, who should be available for the Rangers game on Sunday. Are you happy with your club's business so far? And if not, what do they still need to do? Let us know now.
Yeah, Gabriel, let us know now with the demand there. Glenn Kamara, somebody's got to go. I think Rangers will look at the game against Alashkert and say, okay, let's get past that first of all. But somebody's, I think, going to be sold by them. It's just a hunch.
Well, Glenn Kamara is the biggest profit one. They only paid, what was it, 50,000?
Yeah.
And if they think they're going to get 10 million for him, I think that's a sensible move financially, because there's certain players the supporters won't want to leave. Kent being one of them. I don't think they'd like him going. The centre forward, yeah. I think they've bought into, he's going to go sometime. So I think it just depends on what players go, and that's why the managers have got to decide if there's 4 bids on the table, which one do I let go? I think the biggest one to let go is the fullback. I think if this young boy is as good as what he is, they should just let Tavernier go, and get some money for him.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think the young boy, I'm hearing all the stories and I've seen a wee bit about him. I think he's as good as.
Yeah, well...
That's an interesting debate. I'm thinking I'm finally seeing some pals later on this week, one of whom is a really big Rangers fan. He's already been to every game this season, and you're right, he was one of the guys that was shouting up
Nathan Patterson, yeah,
for Scotland. So I wonder if I put that to him and saying, right, you happy then, just slotting him in if it means that you sell Tavernier. Be interested to see what he says back, because Tavernier was exceptional. Glenn Kamara as well, but then you think, was he £10 million exceptional last season, or do you hang on a minute, as you're saying, I mean, in terms of what they paid for him, which was absolute washers, then you'd need to think if it was a serious 10 million bid, bye, thanks for everything.
Absolutely, it'd be off time. But as soon as somebody comes up, I always treat anybody, puts a figure on a player that's going as just a nonsense, Ruffy, because if anything in Scottish football, apart from what I call the pub culture of everybody, especially on social media, just bashing each other, saying what a player's worth. At the end of the day, you get a true figure because people know, they look at them in the market and they think, this is what he's worth. I mean, Dundee United, what have they got? Just under $1 million for Lawrence Shankland. Fair play to them. Whatever Rangers get for the most sellable asset is, I think, sensible, because they're trying to balance.
I think the biggest debate is going to be when they do go, and the figure that's put out there, what they went for.
Yeah.
You have to get your head round.
Yeah, but another thing about it as well, can you afford to lose Kamara? Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they've got enough cover in the midfield.
Well, I think they can afford to lose Tavernier.
You know the hard one to get your head around.
Sure. I think they like two. He likes two people in each position, but nevertheless,
A hard one to get your head around. It's happened to Motherwell a few times, and it really, you always feel the worst, but when you don't actually hear of the fee. He left for an undisclosed
Yeah,
fee.
yeah,
You just
absolutely.
always feel your team's been screwed.
Well, listen,
and I'm embarrassed to mention it.
your team is just deserve nothing but credit for the way they've gone about their business. I had a 1-to-1 with Alan Burrows in here,
Absolutely.
and it is the best bit of PR, and it's from the heart,
Yeah.
which is quite simply the money from David Turnbull allowed them to say to the supporters, by the way, this is your season ticket. You've had a tough 16 or 18 months. There it is. Come and support us. We don't want your money. We're going to use it in another way to say thank you. That is what I call a thoroughly decent
And
family
if you
club.
want to chuck some money into the hat, we'll use it to offer season tickets to, unemployed people and families that maybe don't have as much money coming in. And then, of course, you think in Motherwell continually still the praise for everything they've done with mental health and suicide campaigns and everything, but you still need to boo them when they get horsed with Dundee in the cup.
Absolutely, you do.
Boils, didn't it? It's all about results.
Doesn't matter how nice you
That
are.
pint of Povrel's 40 quid.
No, it's been absolutely magnificent. And actually, just as we sat here the day, Peter, just as I was actually flying over here to Vegas to the studio, the postman delivered the letter from Motherwell today, which clearly all the season ticket holders would have got out today or this week certainly. And it was basically a thank you letter from Alan Burrows with what looks like my season ticket card for last year, a new one of them to get me in this year, and it was all very, very positive, and I think great. And it means that from the Dundee game, or bogey team you could argue, a week on Saturday at Fir Park, and I would almost get quite emotional talking about it. I've not seen any of them, but I'll be back sitting with my pals, Row D in the Phil O'Donnell stand. It'll be brilliant.
It will be brilliant, actually. It's great. I mean, it's hard to believe, from the madness of us all being in our house. And I have to say, great credit to everybody. We always joke about the technology, but we had, how many glitches? One or two glitches, and one person who cared not a jot for the decor behind them. He just put photographs up as if there was an earthquake, squinty 40s, and of course allowed his wife to put certain photos in to put him in a good light. Previous wins, World Cups aplenty. But other than that, I thought it was great, and a lot of people responded in great numbers to the guests we had on, and of course the banter as well. So magnificent. The most interesting one of all had to be Aberdeen, trying to get Martin Boyle, $500,000. They might come back in, Ruffy, I suspect they will. The only thing that I would look at is if Hibs decide to take that money, I wouldn't like to see Boyle come in and Hedges go out of Aberdeen. I think if they could land him, no disrespect to Hibs fans, I know they'll be hacked off at me saying that, but Boyle's been the shining light of, if you were picking the top 5 or 6 players since the start of the season with League Cup and the league games, Boyle's been on for him.
I don't think the Hibs fans would put up with that for a minute.
No.
No to you, what you would say, their nearest rivals for third or fourth. The fans would go absolutely crazy, particularly for that amount of money. I think if it was somebody from England, it would be maybe 2 million, million and a half, 2 million. Yeah. So the money itself, even if not for $1 million, I don't think the Hibs fans would put up. That would send out the wrong message. Yeah. To let one of your could possibly your best player go to one of your nearest rivals.
Yeah, thanks to George Cumming, who says, I hope you bring his luck, Tam, as the well have been rank all season other than 45 minutes against Hibs.
Yeah, they were. I watched that one. They were decent against Hibs, but getting into the League Cup, it was a strange. I know that we get through the groups, but finding yourself 2-0 down at home to Queen of the South, that was a shocker. We did come back, but the one that I think would have been the boot up the backside maybe for Graham Alexander was the defeat to Airdrie, which, as I keep saying, I say it all the time, absolutely no harm to Hamilton Accies, a club that I've got a hell of a lot of time for, but Motherwell Airdrie was always the big derby, and particularly for your older Motherwell fans, certainly for the Airdrie fans. Because that was the tasty games back in the day. When I started going to football in the mid-70s, that was always a tasty fixture. That was always the one you maybe watch for the odd missile, shall we say, after the game and stuff.
Just out of curiosity, do you remember? And so people of a certain vintage, anybody who's maybe under 30 won't remember, but at the old Broomfield, they used to have the old, they call it the cottage.
Oh, aye.
Right?
Yeah.
And if Airdrie scored, then the stand where all the directors, there used to be a wee woman in there with a hat, and she used to stand up in her long Sunday coat. Give it this, and it always used to irritate the life out of me.
I can imagine.
But I remember that part of it. That was a real.
Oh, but that was great. And the best way of summing up the Motherwell Airdrie rivalry was, that was the one as a kid. As much if I think back to when, let's say, Baythias would have been in the first division or whatever, when you were still, and I wish they could bring it back, when you were still able to switch ends at half time. You remember that, right?
Yeah,
So
you could walk round.
Aye, the fence that separated the terracing at Motherwell, which is now the East Stand, the Sailor Hunter Stand, you'd the gate up the back of that, and you know, opposition fans, you'd be brushing by each other again. But the time that you were terrified of doing it was definitely if you were playing Airdrie. You know, you just thought something was going to happen. But again,
Airdrie was the manager's walk of death from the dugout to that wee bit, because they had to walk down that wall, knowing that stand, and obviously the punters are just there, and if you any reaction to them,
I'll tell you again, in terms of walks of death, walks of shame or whatever, again, Graham Alexander would have wished that Dens Park had their kind of tunnel in the halfway line, because he had to do that, of course,
clapping his hands and still getting booed.
Clapping and getting booed and all that. But again, huge game now for Motherwell on Saturday at Livingston. That is a really enormous game.
You also, and I think from this, I'm going to read a few things out here, and one of them is a good line. I'm going to get back to you on this thing because it's quite pertinent. But somebody was talking there and mentioned Martin Boyle. I think it was Jonathan who said about Martin Boyle, he's worth far more than $500,000. He can win 7 penalties a year for diving, which to be fair to the boy, I wouldn't like to get too near him in the box. He reminds me of old Solo. One of my friends played for Rangers, John McDonald. He was a master at it. If anybody went near him in the box and put him off balance, he was down. You, of course, mentioned there that rivalry, Motherwell and Airdrie, and in your column on a regular occasion, you would leather them with a gag.
Airdrie, it's just, I always think you only really have jokes and have a bit of fun
with affection.
People or places if you're affectionate towards them. You know, and that's why they you know, I'm not looking for an MB, but the only charity I'm involved with is the St Andrews Hospice, which is based in Airdrie. The only really supporters trust that I'll ever get involved with, apart from like the Welsh Society Mall, is Airdrie. I've got a few good pals there, you know, but
what's
you're
the
always
best gag you've ever delivered?
You're always there. Aye, right, nearly. Peter says, right, we've got Tam Moore for 1 week, but we want to get rid of him. I'll just set the trap, he'll walk right in, just off his holiday, sunstroke and all that.
I didn't mean you're naughty after midnight, guys.
No, you're okay. I'll come back to one then.
When Airdrie were going through their terrible financial troubles, remember when Stevie Archibald was there, they decided to have a sportsman's gig, and some maniac decided I would be the host, which was an absolute disaster. But it came to the auction, and you know that you have done the auction before when you've got the signed ball.
Yes.
And you go, I'd like an offer for the signed ball, and there's nothing. And you, out the kindness of your heart, go 50 quid. And then you end up with it. That was that night. It was an absolute shocker.
I did that in of all places, in Edinburgh. Somebody had come in with a full signed Wraith Rovers jersey from the team that defeated Rangers in the, you know, when Rangers down the lower leagues. John Baird scored the winner.
Wraith Rovers. Petrofac Cup.
Yeah, I think it was the Petrofac Cup.
Or something.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Motherwell have never played in it, I don't know these
yeah,
things.
well, it was one of those cups, but it was at Easter Road. John Baird scored late on, and it had been signed by the entire team. Well, honestly, Tam, could I get anybody?
Is that right?
I couldn't believe it. It's one of those jerseys that you would think, if people are into memorabilia, you know, if you get the right market, you'll get a few quid for it.
Yeah.
Nobody. So I did the Ruffy Classic. I'll bid 50 quid, and then you could just see the tumbleweed as everybody just shut up. And that was me. And
here it
in
is.
the car.
Here it is this week's strip.
It's this week's prize,
A
honestly.
nightmare with that. It wasn't quite an auction, it was a raffle, and it was in the Greenfield Social Club Burnbank and Hamilton. I hope its doors are still open. The social clubs are having a terrible, terrible time. But I went out to help them out. It was just a wee charity thing. And a guy that had been at a fit would do before says, Tam, it's just a wee music night and all that, but I'm wondering if we were looking to get somebody in, a kind of well-kenned face, could you come out and maybe just at least draw the raffle for us? I says, aye, no bother. Now, my favourite auntie, if you like, and my uncle, Auntie Agnes, Uncle Bobby, they'd lived for years in Burnbank. I thought I had a wee bit of affection for the place. So I went out. And I thought, I'll be in and out in half an hour anyway. So I went in and there's a wee bit of music on, the music halts, local singers and all that, a wee band, whatever. And the guy says, now, to draw our raffle, would you please welcome, he's come out from Motherwell the night just to help us out. Didn't want even his petrol money or anything. Would you welcome up Tam Cowan? And I went up, how are you doing? Lovely wee round of applause and all that, you know. And the guy says, and Tam, we've done very well with the raffle. And you two will know what I mean. We've done very well with the raffle, Tam, before you start putting them out. We get 240 prizes donated. Oh no! And he thought I was going to do them one at a time and then start that stuff. Is it mauve? We need the serial number. I'd been there for 3 weeks, so I'll tell you, it was like Santa's grotto. I was saying, right, that for the next 15 prizes, it's white 15, you're just throwing stuff at folk, you know. It was incredible, but a smashing wee night.
Yeah. Listen, the other thing I was going to say to you as well is talking football and bringing you some of the interviews from managers and players ahead of the games. This also goes out as a podcast, so you can listen to the show on the podcast. Sometimes I mention things which are relevant to the YouTube and not necessarily the podcast, but it's just to basically offer a note of decency. There are people who pass comments that we don't read out on the programme, and we will never read them out because clearly their heads are in the gutter. So don't be in any way guided by what goes on if you're watching the programme on YouTube and you can see the stream of people commenting. Some of them will never have a brain. All you have to do is watch the programme, enjoy the footy, and if you're a football fan and you love your club, we are more than happy to read out your pertinent points. And the Martin Boyle one, a lot of people talking about that, and some people saying if it was Martin Boyle getting sold by Hibs to Aberdeen or any other club, a lot of Hibs fans agree with Ruffy, they would be angry.
You'll certainly know, read that one out there from Cheryl and Anne, who work with PLZ, saying, Peter, any chance of a microwave oven in the office?
Listen,
I'm fighting their case. New
office, Celtics, I'm just
and all they want is a microwave. They're in there making trainers for you, making t-shirts and fit batatas. Hey, Cheryl, bless her, she's only 7. And you can't even get them a microwave to heat up a cup of soup.
Honestly,
I'm fighting the fight for the girls.
You are indeed. They'll get a microwave eventually. Anyway, apart from anything else, quite a lot of the deals there, whether they happen or not, we will keep you up to date with them. And the other good thing is, if you download the PLZ Soccer app, you'll get all the latest breaking news right across the whole of Scottish, English, European and world football, as well as, of course, being able to watch the programme whenever you want. It comes up on our app too, so hopefully you're going to enjoy that. Couple of things to mention just before we go. Bayern Munich face Borussia Dortmund in the German Super Cup. And I think it'll be quite an emotional night because I know Bayern Munich will pay tribute to the great Gerd Müller who passed away, Ruffy.
Yeah, and we spoke about him the other day. You know, I think not just Bayern Munich, but the whole of Germany, you know, for what he did for the country as well. You know, he was a very affectionate guy. By all accounts, a really nice guy as well. So no, that's quite a big night for everybody.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Tam, Bayern Munich against Borussia Dortmund. I know they were sniffing about Lewandowski and people were sniffing about Erling Haaland. I'm glad that these guys stayed because every country needs top drawer players that they can still see on their local television. Because see when Sky do a deal for, we're bringing you the Bundesliga, or BT Sports say we're bringing you the La Liga, let's just say whoever they do. I don't know about you, but I love English football. I know you're not a big fan of it. I love English football, and I've gone down regularly, to watch Liverpool, as well as we cover Scottish football. But every country has got an affinity. The fans want to see big players there. I wouldn't necessarily watch a Bundesliga game unless it was relevant to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I put it down to club level in Scotland, Peter, in terms you need identity. run about your club. And when I go in, many a time it's happened, I've just been going into Fir Park, into the main stand at the same time as two great pals. They've been pals for years, they were teammates, but I'll see Willie Pettigrew and Bobby Graham getting into Fir Park just ahead of me to go up and take their seats, and that gives you a wee buzz right away, you know what I mean, to see two absolute legends like that still being associated with the club. It's great, and because there's a danger as players come and players go. You know, that's maybe even happened at Motherwell in recent years when we have lost guys, you know, like Stephen Craigan, maybe Keith Lasley, maybe Stevie Hamill, more recently boys like Alan Campbell and that, you know, and you think you're losing a wee bit of Motherwell out of Motherwell, if that makes sense, you know what I mean, and guys coming up for the lower reaches English football and that. So I think identity is a very, very important thing, and I do think again, I mean, and even right at the start of a season, it's always a valid point to make to the people running our clubs: never underestimate the fans, because the fans will always give you that. At every club, the fans will always be there, you know. So treat them like Motherwell have this season with the free season books. Treat them well.
Yeah, or charge them £19 even if they bought a season ticket. Just a thought. Just a thought. Just throw it out there, dearie me. And I'm going to read this out because this is the type of thing we get on the show, as well as opinion, which you'll always get an opinion. We'll try and be as balanced and as impartial as we possibly can. This one here is basically Stephen says, Peter, I watched yesterday's show. I was howling when Ruffy says the wave that swept the winger into the sea. I mean, he couldn't help it, the boy, and thankfully he was able to get out and he was saved, Ruffy, which was fantastic.
Yeah, the lifeboat was very quick up that neck of the woods.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people amazed that a player could be swept in from the sea at Gayfield Park for a home or Broth game. But that's
I thought you were away back to Gary Mackay-Stevens at club in Partick.
No, when he went, no. Anyway, apart from anything else, Fraser Annan says, Tam is always talking sense. That's the joy of it all. It's all about opinions. And just before we go, Ruffy, Marçal was sent off in the 2-0 win for Galatasaray over Giresunspor last night. He was sent off for taking a swing at his teammate Kerem Artikoglu. Now, I don't know about you, can you remember any time when your teammates have been fisticuffs with each other? I know there was the classic one, which was Lee Boyer and Kieran Dyer at Newcastle.
Yeah, and they had Levine up at...
Graham Hogg.
That was a pre-season friendly.
Yeah. I know.
Wraith Rovers. Bizarre.
To be fair, though, Craig Levine actually, you know, I think he built up a hard man image out of it, you know, which is fair. It was somehow.
No, I haven't actually. No, I've actually seen somebody going for somebody and you went, oh, let him go.
Yeah.
You know, and see what happens, you know, just to sort of wisp up the half-time entertainment.
Sure, Steve Dykstra had a cracker with Luke Nyhope.
Yeah.
Fellow countryman, of course, but I think there was a wee bit of that played up a bit.
Of course, Tosh belted Henrik Larsson.
Absolutely, aye.
That was a cracker as well.
What was one involving John Hartson?
Oh,
Isle Berkovic,
was it?
Was that in the training ground as well?
Yes, yeah, that was a training ground. Isle was not short of confidence.
Aye,
you know, I always get worried, Tam, when somebody scores a goal and when the players are coming over to celebrate, he goes, get out of the way, I'm on a mission somewhere, you know. There's nothing worse, custard pie, but no, I can't think of too many players. Can you think of a teammate that ended up fighting in the team that you support? Just a thought on it. Give us your thoughts. Tomorrow we will have our jersey and our competition and our question for you to win one of the Premiership tops. We've already given away a Motherwell top. There's lots more to come. And I can tell you, having had a chat earlier with Ruffy, we've got a very, very special That Game programme coming up. It's 50 years, Ruffy, and we've had a wee chat with you and the captain, Alec Ray at Partick Thistle. 1971, 50 years ago. And there's all sorts of things planned for the Jags fans to enjoy and wallow in a wee bit of nostalgia of Thistle beating Celtic 4-1 in the League Cup final.
As Tam said, loyal fans will buy into mostly everything, you know, and they're certainly doing that now. We've got replica Megros, replica strips, you know, and even the 21, we won the Cup in 21 as well. They bought into that as well. They bought all the replica strips, they bought everything that was going. It's going to be a great year, you know, for us in that sort of aspect, because fans love big moments and they love times that they can remember.
Well, if anything, Tam, just to finish on that point, he's talking about 1971 for Thistle. you in 1991 for Motherwell, St Johnstone have given everybody a wee taster of, listen, this is what we had Chris Miller in, by the way, who at the end of the day is gutted. He won the Scottish Cup, and suddenly the Saints have won the double and blown him and Dave Mackay and all their dinners out.
Absolutely. I mean, that was an incredible achievement in St Johnstone. Just to put into perspective, Peter, I'm sure it has been put into perspective by most people, but Galatasaray beating St Johnstone, there's no shame in that whatsoever for the Perth club. And it was best summed up for me when somebody pointed out that Galatasaray are sponsored by Turkish Airlines. St Johnstone are sponsored by A and B taxis. There's a level.
Yes,
there's a level.
Absolutely. We all know what level we're operating at. Listen, thanks to you for posting so many messages. A lot of them really nice towards Tam as he comes back onto the programme. He's back every Tuesday and we're delighted to have him here with us. We'll be talking football. Tomorrow, again, we'll continue our build-up to Celtic against AZ Alkmaar, and then we'll look in greater detail at the other matches involving Scottish clubs on the Thursday this week. Of course, Rangers involved and Aberdeen as well, and St Johnstone. So we'll hear from all the camps, the managers and the players of Aberdeen, St Johnstone and Celtic. Rangers still not talking to the media at the moment, but I'm sure sooner or later we'll break down that barrier and get to hear what Steven Gerrard has to say on a regular basis. But from everyone here, thanks to Ruffy, Tam and myself, Peter Martin, thanks to you for watching.